bodies beat by the window seat. Little eyes look high up into blues and stars. I wanna surrender to those cosmic skies, whispering spells about what it means to be wise. There's glittering whites and shooting comets, milky bands that speak golden sonnets, intergalactic Janet from another planet.
Hey you! Welcome to Dricka Necole's universe. I am Dricka Necole, your spiritual advisor, and let's make sure that we are in our robes today. Again, if you don't have a robe, that is okay. Let's clear our mind for the message that we will be receiving today. Okay, so I have a question for you guys. And the question that I have is, when you find yourself in a tough situation, how do you typically go about that? Are you the kind of person who reaches out for help for other people? Or are you the kind of person who will try to figure out the situation on your own, try and navigate the situation on your own? Now, I know that this may vary depending on the situation that you may find yourself in, but I do feel like most of us kind of have like a default response when we do find ourselves in situations that are just really tough and we don't really see a way out of it. And I'm just curious about this because, as a deep observer of myself and of others, I've recently taken on a new career opportunity where I'm teaching toddlers due to an internal calling. And it's been such an amazing experience, watching children. I mean, I've been around children pretty much all my life. But it's very interesting to see how children navigate the world, right? And it's more interesting to see how they navigate around problems. I primarily teach children that are 1 to 2 years old of age. So, when they are at that age range, they start to build a consciousness for themselves. They start to become very independent. And, some of them actually are very independent. They prefer to do things on their own, like pulling up their pull-ups, taking their pull-ups off, or their undies off for some of them that actually wear undies. They prefer to serve themselves their breakfast, their lunch, their snacks, and, even though, yes, they'll make a mess and whatnot, but, they prefer to do these things on their own. They prefer to put their shoes on, even though they may put them on the wrong feet, etc. Some of them are just very, very independent. Like, they'll actually get upset if you try to help them. However, there is a small few of them that, they'll ask for help automatically. It's just something that they just automatically do, even though I know that they can do it on their own. And so this is typically, that crowd or that little group of toddlers that I spend a lot of my time encouraging them to do it themselves, just because I'm encouraging them to be a little bit more independent. I'm encouraging them to learn how to figure it out on themselves. And of course, I'm always there to offer my help for them. It's just that I really want to encourage them to learn how to do things on their own. I speak positively to them. I remind them how much of a big boy, how much of a big girl that they are. And I haven't seen some progress. It's some work. It's some work. And even for the ones that are independent, they'll get to that point where they're like, help, I need help, and I'll be there to help them. But for the ones that do tend to automatically just want somebody to do something for them, those are the ones that I really spend a lot more time with, encouraging them to do it on their own. Or I'll just be like, okay, let me see you do it first. That's kind of the approach that I'll take with them, is let me see you do it first. And I'm there to observe. And of course, I'm also there to provide assistance when they when they actually need it. But for the most part, when I do encourage them to try and do it on their own, most times they'll do exactly just that. They'll figure it out on their own. And so, you know, it's just that for me, I mean, I don't know about anyone else. I don't know about anyone else, but for me, I do feel like it is really, independence is very important for character development, for individuality. And so working with these children, you know, it's one of those things that I'm really, if I'm going to be in these children's life, if I'm going to be playing a part in their lives, it's something that I really want to make sure that they at least grasp. I can't control what happens at home, but I can control what happens when they are within my care. And so learning how to be independent is something that I want to ensure that I'm instilling into them, because it's important. We, as human beings, we need to learn how to be independent. And it's all about helping them not only be independent, but also learning how to be their best self. So when they do grow up and, you know, they do begin to navigate life on their own, they do have some form of instinct within them that will be present for them to be able to handle situations on their own. Now, for me, I've been independent pretty much all my life, you know, but I will say that, you know, my independence, the development of my independence, it started off healthy until it wasn't. I guess I'll kind of put it like that, you know. And I say that because, well, for starters, one of my favorite movies as a kid was Matilda, right? And if anybody has seen Matilda, you would know that you would just know that Matilda was someone who was brought into a family who, I believe it was her actual family, but you know, it was a family where she primarily had to do things on her own. It was like her parents, they had a kid, but they didn't really care for her. You know, they didn't really shower her with the same love and with the same attention as they did her brother. And so this was one of my favorite movies growing up, primarily because I saw a lot of myself in Matilda, right? Like, I learned how to do a lot of things on my own, just like her. I was very different from my family members, just like her. You know, she was wise beyond her years. I, too, am very much wise beyond my years. And of course, you know, she had spiritual powers, and that was something that I really, because as a kid, I was experiencing a lot of things regarding my gifts and regarding things of the other realm, or the spiritual realm, as some may, you know it as. And so there's quite a bit of things, especially regarding those aspects about her, that I feel like I could relate to. So that's like one of those movies that I can never get, you know, tired of watching. But I will say, the thing about seeing myself in Matilda, you know, our independence primarily came from being abandoned. And, you know, when you're faced in a situation like that as a child, you're kind of, it's not that you want to be independent. You're never even provided the option to be independent. You're kind of forced into being independent because you kind of just have this understanding that, well, if nobody else is going to do it, you know, then you have to figure it out on your own. Like, there's this one scene in the movie where she's left home all alone, and she has to at least be, I don't know, she has to at least be like 2, 3, maybe like 3, 4 years old. Maybe like 3, yeah, I would say anywhere between like 3 to 4 years old, maybe 5. But she's left home all alone, and you know, her mom is telling her, oh, there's so and so here if you get hungry. She dressed herself, put her shoes on, the right feet. You know, she made her own breakfast. She didn't want whatever her mom told her that was there in the fridge or whatever for her. And so it's like things like that. It's like it's crazy. Some people will watch that movie and be like, oh my God, this is so cute, this, that, and the third. And it is cute. You know, it is cute. It is, you feel accomplished, especially when you're somebody that young, who can do so many things by yourself. But it's also at the same time, it's a little devastating and it's a little sad to see that a child at such a young age is doing all these things by herself because she has to, right? She has to. And so that's kind of what I mean when I say that my independence, the development of it started out healthy until it wasn't. I came from a family who very much so made sure that I knew how to do things on my own. They started to teach me a lot of things at a very young age, making certain things, making certain meals, making certain things for myself that I was, that I can eat by myself. And, it was good until it wasn't. I had got to a point in my life where, like, for instance, my hair, keeping my hair styled. I had my older sister would always keep my hair done for me. Always have my hair done. And then I got to a point, I want to say like high school, like 9th, 10th grade-ish. She just kind of like pulled back in a way. There was no conversation. There was no, okay, well, now that you're this age, I want you to learn how to start. It was no conversation at all. My family was never really big on having conversations to kind of prepare you for certain things, prepare you for life and things of that nature. So, when I had this just abrupt, stop or abrupt abandonment, some would say, it's just like, okay, well, now what do I do in this situation? So from there, I really had to, take the wheel and learn how to navigate a lot of things on my own. And it wasn't just about doing my own hair. It extended far beyond that. Like I said, life. A lot of families don't actually prepare you for navigating life on your own outside of the home. So it's a lot of things that I really had to take into conscious for myself and just learn how to navigate these things on my own. But again, from childhood, there were still things, my emotions, for instance, was something that I had to navigate on my own. And that is something too that unfortunately some children have to go through because their parents either just don't really care, or their parents honestly just don't know. Because at the end of the day, nobody really knows what to do. We may feel like we have all the answers. We may read books that tell us, step by step how to do certain things. Really, that's just the author providing their insight for things that may have worked for them. But at the end of the day, nobody really knows what we are doing in life. We're just really just going with the flow of things. We're just really just doing things that we feel as though is right. And, something for me is just, I can remember my mom telling me like, oh, if you need or want something, you just ask me. And, I'm sure any kid would, take that literally because, again, as a kid, our parents are supposed to be our primary sources of security, and stability. So we are to look up to them. We're supposed to. I mean, we're children. We don't know how to navigate the world by ourselves just yet. So we're supposed to look up to them to feel and provide our needs and whatever it is that we want. Maybe not everything that we exactly want, but we're supposed to look up to them to provide for us, our needs, our basic needs especially, and our emotional needs, things in that nature, and some things that we may want, that they find appropriate that we can actually have. And so just again, in the earlier days, in the earlier years of my childhood, it's like, yes, my needs and my wants were met indeed. Some would probably say that I was spoiled. I don't feel like I was really spoiled, but some would probably say that I was a little spoiled in my childhood. But again, just a snap of a fingers, there was a lot of inconsistency. I must say that. And when it came to me needing something or me wanting something, I was met with either a direct no, or I would think about it, which over time, I started to develop, okay, that too means no. It was an indirect no. And so from there, things just became so inconsistent that, my mom even started to tell me, oh, whenever I would come to her and ask her something that I wanted or needed, it kind of got to a point where she would be like, oh, you only come to me when you want something or when you need something. And that just left me confused because, again, as a kid, as my younger self, middle school, high school, I'm just like, well, is that not what I am supposed to do? So it was really, again, it was just really confusing, because how can you go from, if you want or if you need anything, just ask me. And so I'm taking that into I'm taking that into retrospect. I'm taking that into consciousness. Okay, you're letting me know that, again, you're providing that form of security for me. So if I need something, if I want something, I know I can come to you. And then all of a sudden, you switch and say, oh, you only come to me when you want or need something. But again, you are my parent, right? You are my source of security. You are my source of stability right now. So who else am I supposed to go to if I don't come to you as my mother, as my parent, right? And so I can remember in elementary school, I kind of developed this mindset that if I wanted something, then I was going to have to get it myself. And even though I would say that that's kind of a good mindset to have, I would say for me at that time, the habit that I developed with that mindset was not a good one. And the habit that I had developed was I started stealing. I took on this belief that, yeah, I could no longer go to you. I could no longer trust you to stand by your word, to stand on something you said. If I wanted something, if I needed something, that I could come to you. I couldn't trust that anymore, right? So I knew that if I wanted something, that I was going to have to get it myself. Now, with this stealing habit, the funny thing about it, I was only stealing snacks, okay? If someone say, oh, that's still kind of innocent, though, it is, but still, stealing is still wrong. Nobody should be stealing, okay? It's still wrong. So, my basic needs, like my food, my clothes, school supplies, roof over my head, all of those things was met. I wasn't just left for dead or anything in regards to that matter. It's just that I had a sweet tooth and I wanted sweets, so I started stealing sweets. So this habit, it went on for a few months. I think I eventually stopped around third grade, yeah. But I eventually stopped because I knew it was wrong. In fact, my mom took me to the police office, the sheriff's department, actually. And I had the opportunity to sit with a police officer. She told the police officer about my habit of stealing. And I had the opportunity to have a one-on-one interaction with the police, where he kind of sat me in the interrogation room, where, I'm sitting across from him. And he's like, so your mom is telling me that you have this habit, and this habit is not a good habit to have. And even though, yes, he was telling me that even though stealing snacks, it was kind of like an innocent thing, it's just that he wanted to ensure that the overall habit of stealing altogether was not a good thing. And I would never forget, he pulled out handcuffs. He took some handcuffs off of his belt, and he told me to hold them. And I'm holding them in my little hands. I'm holding them, and they're heavy. And he's like, you feel how heavy that is? And I was like, yeah. And he was like, you don't want those on you, because if you get in trouble, you get older, you get an adult, and you're still stealing things, one of these days you're going to be caught by a police officer, and you're going to have these handcuffs put on you, and you're going to be taken to jail. And so it was from that day on, it was like, okay, let me stop stealing, because this is clearly not the right thing to do. Even though, again, it was just stealing snacks, but something so innocent, can be developed into a much worse habit. And he wanted to ensure that I understood that. And so yeah, I want to say third grade was when I kind of just put my stealing habit to rest. However, even though I put the stealing habit to rest, I still had that belief. I still had that mindset that if I wanted something, then I was going to get it. So I did start to develop a more honest way of doing things. I can recall in elementary school, there would be these, what do you call them? I don't remember what they're called. Oh my goodness, I can't believe I can't remember what they're called. Maybe some of you guys will understand what I'm talking about, but it was like these opportunities where you like your teacher would pass you out this small little pamphlet or this paper, and it would show you like all these different books and all these different things that you can purchase. I don't remember what it's called. I can't believe it. And your class would go down to wherever it was located, maybe like in a school library or something. They'll have like all these tables set up with all these books, and it'll be so cool because I will be seeing other kids with the money that their parents gave them so they can buy new books, they can buy pens, they can buy all these cool things. And it felt, I felt it didn't feel good being left out. My elementary school, I don't know about anybody else's elementary school, but my elementary school, we also had this thing like every Friday, you can get like a blue icy during lunchtime, and they only cost $1. So something I started to do was I started to, a lot of students in the school, they knew that I was very artistic. They knew I could draw. So they would want me to draw things for them. And I'm like, okay, that's going to be $1. That's going to be $1. So I turned my stealing habit into more of an honest habit. I just started to charge people for things. And I would be able to get me a blue icy. Or again, if I wanted to buy something from I don't remember what it's called, the book event. I don't remember what it's called. I hope somebody knows exactly what I'm talking about if your elementary school did this. But that was a way I started to do things for myself, because again, I knew that I could not ask my mama. And even when I still made the attempt, even when I still went out of my way to still try and ask her, like, oh, can I get $1? Can I have some money? So, the book fair, that's what it's called. When I would ask her for money so I can buy some things at the book fair, it was always, I'll think about it. And again, I already knew what that meant. That meant no. So it was just like, okay, well, I'm going to figure out how to do it on my own. So yeah, I started to charge students $1 for some artwork anytime they wanted me to draw something for them, or I would offer to draw something for them, and they'd be like, oh yes, can you draw this for me? I would charge them $1, and I would have my little money so I can go to the book fair and buy me something, or I would have my $1 ready for Fridays so I can get me a blue icy. And that was really just how I started to develop a more honest way about going about being independent and doing things for myself. And this is something that, I took on through high school as well. It got to a point where my senior year, well, I was doing it before my senior year. I was doing it my 10th or 11th grade, I think my 11th grade year. But I wasn't charging. I was just doing it for free. But I was really just more so like just building up this rapport. I was building up this rapport with students. Like, okay, if you need some homework done, I'll do it for you. And I would do their homework for them. But my senior year was when I really had to get to the point of, actually charging for it. Because again, dealing with my mother, she had refused to pay my senior fees. If anybody graduated anywhere between 2016, I don't know if they did it before 2016, but if your class is 2016, you know what senior fees are. Senior fees were a fee that the school needed, I guess, to like put money towards your graduation supply. I don't know, things like that. Ordering the caps and gowns, I guess. I don't really recall what the senior fees were for, but I just knew that if you were a senior, you had to pay senior fees. And I don't remember exactly how much a senior fee. I don't think they cost that much. I don't think it cost that much. But anywho, I had to get to a point where like, okay, now I gotta start charging for my services. So students that needed classwork done, I would charge them. I know the big thing for me during that time was every senior had to complete like an online course in order to graduate. Like it was a requirement to graduate. And so I was doing like maybe 3 students online classwork, and it sucks for them because that online classwork was about credit, how to build credit, how to take care of your credit. It talked about home insurance, car insurance, life insurance, talked about all that stuff. So not only am I completing my own online coursework, but I'm also completing 3 other students. I believe my senior fees was maybe like $50 to $75 or $80. It was somewhere. It was. I think it was less than $100 if I recall. I could be wrong. I don't really remember. But yeah, I was getting like $20, $40 from students who would pay me to complete their online courses for them because they just, I don't know, maybe they didn't want to, or they just was so busy with extracurricular activities or things like that, they just didn't take care of it, or their jobs, because some of them was already working also. So that was a way that I had to take care of a need. That wasn't like a want, like how in elementary school I wanted to buy things from the book fair, I wanted a blue icy on Friday. Those are wants. This was a need that needed to be taken care of. I had to have this taken care of so I could graduate. So I did what I needed to do without having to steal. I went about it in an honest way. So, it's just sharing this information with you guys. I'm sure you guys can be like, okay, so when you're in a tough situation, you're going to figure it out on your own. I'm going to figure it out on my own. In fact, that's what I'm saying. Like, my independence got into a point, it was healthy until it got to a point where it wasn't. Because going through life, me navigating my tough situations, even though these were just minor situations, like I said, it started out with me just wanting something. I just wanted sweets. I had a sweet tooth, and my family wouldn't give me snacks. It's not like I didn't ask, because I would ask, but when they would tell me no, it was like, okay, well, I'm going to go figure it out for myself. And the way that I would go about figuring it out is I would go steal a snack. Right? Whether I was stealing a classmate's snacks and then lying about it when they asked me, because it got my thieving habit became so popular amongst my classmates that they just knew if something went missing, if my treats, if my Go-Gurt, if my granola bar, whatever, if it went missing, Dricka had it. Dricka stole it. So it was bad. It was bad. So I have to stop doing this. And I was not embarrassed by it at all. I was not embarrassed by it. I even had a classmate who would make fun of me about it, and I just didn't care, because at the end of the day, in my mind, again, I had that belief. If I want something, I'm gonna go get it. And again, if I would go out of my way to ask them, that's the thing. That was the thing about my stealing habit. I will say that. That's the thing about my stealing habit. I would ask first. But I had this thing when if you told me no, and it's like, okay, well, I'm finna steal it then, because you're not gonna eat that snack. I sit here and I see you every day. You would save that. You would save it and you wouldn't eat it. So I'm gonna eat it for you. So I would always ask first before I would just steal it, right? And when they would tell me no, I'm like, okay, well, you already know what's gonna happen here. I'm gonna steal it because you're not gonna eat it. So you see how it started off with something so small, so minor, of just a want, something I just wanted. Like I said, my basic needs was already taken care of. And then, going further into life, now I'm in high school and I'm getting ready to graduate from high school. Now I have a need that needs to be taken care of, but I have, again, my parent who is not willing to take care of that need for me as my primary source of security and stability. Not willing to take care of that need for me, told me directly she was not going to do it. So I had to step up to the plate for myself, and I had to take care of a need that I needed. And so now, as I had continued to navigate through life on my own as a young adult, that same independence, I took it with me, but I feel like it got to an extreme point. I think high school, having to pay my senior fees, having my mom tell me straight up that she wasn't going to take care. My mom told me straight up she didn't even care if I graduated from high school. Mind you, I'm an AB honor roll student. Just straight up just told me she didn't care if I graduated from high school. So I think that was like a turning point for me mentally, where my belief got to an extreme point where it's just like, well, I have to do everything by myself. I have to, right? And so continuing through life, navigating my life as a young adult, you know, going through college and things like that, I held on to that. I held on to that belief. And it was so extreme that it would be so hard to ask for help. It would be so hard. And it was even kind of like this when I was in elementary school, you know, when it came, let's say like with my homework or my class assignments, with my teachers, it's like I knew I could go to my teachers for assistance, but I don't know, something about me and the way that my independence was developed and the way that I was just handling, you know, dealing with things with my mom and, you know, her telling me no when I asked her for certain things. Even when I did need help with something, I wouldn't receive that help. So I just kind of, my independence for myself was more so, I just developed this belief, was like, I'm going to figure it out for myself. You know, I'm going to figure it out for myself. And if I can't figure it out, then I'll ask for help. And that's kind of how it was like in school, like with my classwork. Even though I never really asked much for help because I was very smart, you know, so I would always be able to figure it out on my own. But there were times where it's like, okay, I'm gonna try and figure it out for myself, and then I'm gonna ask my teacher for help, and that would work fine for me, you know. But still, navigating through life, it's like I still held on to that. It's like I don't feel like I can rely on anybody, you know. That's how extreme it got. I don't feel like I can rely on anybody, so I'm going to do what I need to do to take care of myself. And that was more so just for my needs. Like I said, my senior year, it tweaked something in my brain, seeing that I had to take care of a need myself. Going through life, that became, I can't rely on anybody to take care. I can't rely on anybody to take care of anything for me, so I'm going to do it myself, right? Now, through my 20s, you know, I was in a relationship, so I did have a partner who, in a way, was very helpful. You know, anything that I did need, anything that I kind of did want, you know, he would go out of his way to do for me, until, again, that got to a point where he stopped. You know, things became inconsistent. And so that mindset of me, of my independence, you know, it got even tougher, right? So my independence became more and more extreme, to the point where asking for help, it was a hit to my pride, right? You become so prideful when you're able to do things on your own, when you have this high level of independence about yourself. And sometimes that's intimidating to a lot of people. A person that's knowing that how independent you are, you don't need them for anything, because some people feel like they need to be needed, right? So them being able to help you or provide for you in some way, it feeds their ego in a way, because again, that's something that makes them feel good about themselves, knowing that they are needed in a way. So with me being this highly independent person, feeling like I don't need nobody, and I do still kind of feel this way, and I think it's only because I've gone through life and I've done so much for myself, right? And so just having this form of independence about myself, anytime I had to get to a point in life where I feel like the universe really wanted to crush me down, not crush me down, but like really wanted to get to the nitty gritty about this belief. Because again, this was a belief that became so extreme, it became unhealthy, right? And so I had to get to a point where I experienced a major hardship that in a way forced me to ask for help, right? Step out of my comfort zone. I became so comfortable doing things by myself that I had to have a life experience that forced me to step outside of my comfort zone, put my pride to the side, and actually ask for help, because I would not ask for help. Even till this day, I still don't even go to my family members a lot to ask for help, because I still know I don't feel like I can ask them for help. So I would just continue to take things on for myself. And I still am in that way like that. But now I'm at a point in my life where I feel okay asking for help. You know, it's not a big hit to my ego. It's not a big hit to my pride to have to reach out to another person and ask them for help. And and this even with processing my emotions and everything about me and everything about my life, I've done so independently, because I never really had anyone in my life. Not to say I didn't have anyone in my life to be a helping hand, but I didn't really have anyone in my life who was consistent, with that help, with that assistance. They would help you, and then all of a sudden it would just it's no longer there. And so this is like one reason why I wanted to talk about this, because again, with me teaching children and watching them navigate through things and encouraging them to do things on their own, it's not like I'm trying to enforce that hyper independency on them at all. It's just that I want them to understand that it's important to learn how to do things on your own, because a lot of us, even as adults, I see it, a lot of us aren't even capable or just altogether lack the ability to help ourselves. And it's because we were so used to others just being there always to, pick us up when we were down or spoon feed us, right? And that's just not how life is. We can't always expect somebody to be there all the time to just spoon feed everything, to just give everything to us whenever we are in, a time of need or a time of distress. It's not to say that that's not good, that to have somebody there to help us. That's not me saying that at all. It's just that some of us have become so codependent. That's the word. A lot of people in the world are so codependent to somebody being there to help them. And so when they don't get the help that they want, or that they may need from like a specific person, they may take that personally. We may feel some type of way about it, because, oh my God, like, I'm going through whatever I'm going through right now, and I ask so and so, and so and so don't want to help me. Something to understand, and something I've grown to understand too, even when times where I have reached out for help and I didn't receive the help that I wanted or that I needed in that moment. We can't always take it personally when somebody doesn't help us, right? Because nobody is obligated to do so. Maybe that person isn't even in the place to provide help, right? Especially if it's financial help. Nobody is obligated to do anything for us. And with me being in this position of teaching children, the ones that I see who automatically ask for help, that kind of just lets me know that in a way they may have, and it's no offense to their parents, it's no offense to any of their family members, because it doesn't have to just be the parents. It could be the grandparents, it could be aunts and uncles, it could be anybody within the family. Which something I observe from working with children, and things that I've observed from other people as well, is you can kind of tell who their coddlers are. You can tell who are the ones that do actually spoil them, do enable them, do give them whatever they want, when they need it, how they need it, when they want it. Because when we grow into an adult, we still hold on to that codependency. We still hold on to the fact that, oh, if I need something, I'll just go to so and so and ask them, And the thing about it is, a lot of us, we may appear as if, we're so self-sufficient, and maybe some ways we are, It's just that, however, when life, begins to do what it does best, we are out here like damsels in distress, right? And it's kind of disturbing, because parents who do coddle their children, they don't realize how they are stripping that child, out of the ability to learn independency, to learn how to be self-sufficient, to learn how to tackle things on their own. They think that they are protecting the children. They think that, well, it's my job. I'm their mom, I'm their dad. I'm supposed to. In a way, yes. Because again, as a parent, you are still that child's source of stability, source of security. But there are times where I personally feel like we, as parents, we have to pull back. As young adults, we have to pull back a little bit from our parents, from always receiving their assistance, and learn how to navigate things on our own. So again, when I notice how, some of the kids, they cry, or, they just immediately ask for help when they are in distress, I say, let me see you try first. Or like if they fall down, but it's nothing serious, nothing life threatening, they'll start boo crying, and they'll go into they have this whole meltdown. I simply just tell them, you're okay. Some may see me as, to some people, they may see me as harsh, right? But I'm not. I'm just encouraging the child to learn how to help themselves. Because waiting around for someone to automatically be there to help you, I've learned, is not healthy. And so, I look at my childhood, I look at my experiences, and I have no regrets for how I was raised, because even though the way that my independence was developed turned out to be a more extreme and unhealthy version, the whole point is I learned how to be independent. I learned how to do things on my own, right? In times of distress, I learned how to navigate that on my own without somebody being there to help me, without someone being there to just give me things, give me money when I need, just give me. No. And not only did I learn how to be self-sufficient and learn how to be independent and do things on my own, but I also unlearned. That's the thing. I also unlearned how to not be so hyper independent. I learned how to put my pride aside and do reach out for help, right? Do we need help in our lives every once in a while? Absolutely. Absolutely. Nothing I am saying is negating that we don't ever need help, because we do, right? As someone as hyper independent as me, again, that's a hard lesson to actually have to learn. It's a hard lesson. And it's a hard lesson, it's a hard concept to be receptive of. But it's something that needs to be learned. It's something that needs to be received. Everybody in this world needs some form of help. I don't think there's not one person that has gone through life and did not receive help from anybody. And that help can be different for everybody. It doesn't have to just be financial help. Maybe it can be housing help. Maybe it can be government help. Everybody in this world is receiving some kind of help, right? Again, even when you have times where you reach out for help and you don't receive it, you have to be okay with that. You have to be okay with a person, organization, or whoever telling you, we can't help you right now. We don't have it right now. We can't help you. I'm not in a position to help you. We have to be okay with that and not letting it, hit us so much to the point emotionally where we think the world is coming to an end. We think that nobody in the world wants to help you out. It's not that. It's not that. Nobody is obligated to help you. And maybe in those times when you do reach out for help and you don't, and the person, the organization, or whoever does not help you, maybe that right there in that moment is life teaching you, or the universe teaching you a lesson to learn how to figure it out on your own. But if someone is willing to help you, if an organization is willing to help you, just say thank you, okay? Be grateful, because at the end of the day, nobody is obligated to help you. Nobody. And I see that in a lot of people, is people feel as if you are obligated to help them. I had a situation with my little sister some years back about this. Just because I am your sister, your older sister at that does not make me obligated to help you. Especially if you're going to be disrespectful to me, especially if you're going to be rude about it, Especially if you're going to go around to strangers and telling people that, oh, she has this, she has that, but she don't want to help me. That's not the way we go about that. That's not the way we go about that. And the thing about accepting help from people, it can be so tricky because, you know, some people will only help you if they feel like they can get something out of it. That's another thing about you know, getting help from people. You know, you can be at a low point in your life and need, you know, need help. To them, that makes you vulnerable. So they'll help you, you know, to get you to be codependent on them, which puts them in a position of power, right? And so now it's like it's a win for you because you're receiving help, but it's also a win for them because now they have power over you. Now they're going to do whatever it is that they feel they can to control you in a way. And that could be something as subtle as acting a certain kind of way, you know? Very subtle like that. This is also the same thing some parents do to, you know, enable their kids. It's all a means of control. But that's not always the case. It's not always the case when it comes to accepting help. You'll just need to be discerning with that. But to get back on track, to needing to learn, you know, how to save yourself, how to help yourself. Everybody must learn to help themselves. You know, for those of us that are natural givers, you know, as hard as it may be to want to help those in need, you're going to have to be restorative. You're going to have to learn how to leave people to deal with their struggles and their triumphs alone. Because if not, then you'll just get another participating enabler, right? We all have our own lives, and with our own lives, we make them what they are. That maybe is hard to believe and hard to take in for a lot of people, but it is the truth, you know? So we find ourselves in some foolery, you know, let's try to at least help ourselves first. Because without doing so, we'll struggle to survive. We'll struggle to survive and we'll struggle to thrive on our own. That's all the message for today, guys. I thank you guys for tuning in with me. I'll be in touch with you guys another time. Peace.